Is astrology real? What is up, alienARMy? I'm Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore, and on this channel we discuss everything out of this world. So today's topic is astrology real? And what about the people that don't believe in astrology? Why do they still act like their zodiac signs, their birth chart, what have you? Here's the bottom line. If you believe in astrology, you're going to see it as real for you. If you do not believe in astrology, you're not going to see it as real for you. Does that mean that astrology is fake if someone doesn't see it? No, it simply means that in their realm, they're creating their own experience, and if they want to laugh at astrology, they go right ahead and do that. But to someone who is astrology oriented and they are observing, let's say that astrology deniers thoughts and actions and mannerisms and demeanor, if they're observing them, they're going to be like, holy shit, motherfucker, you don't believe in astrology, but you are a stereotype of your entire birth chart. You might as well print your birth chart out, wear it on a t-shirt, and say, hi, I'm this. That's to someone who believes in astrology, because they are just going to see what their beliefs, what their own processes, what their own mental state is mirroring back to them. So does that mean astrology is real, or does that mean it isn't? It depends who you ask. A lot of occultists dating from way back believe in astrology. Believe it or not, there are a lot of things in modern society that are also based on astrology. So obviously, a few motherfuckers way back when believed in it enough to bring it out into the open, esoterically, clandestinely, and in an occult manner, of course. It's going to come all down to who the observer is. So what does this mean for different types of astrology? There are many different astrology types out there, okay? There's from the Western tropical zodiac, there's the draconic zodiac, there's Vedic astrology, there's the Chinese astrology, there is Native American astrology, there's astrology from ancient Egypt. Astrology is known throughout a lot of different cultures and civilizations, and it really just depends on what resonates with the individual. So someone who grew up and all that was around them was really the predominant Vedic astrology, they are going to resonate with that. Or maybe they had an experience with another type of astrology that they were like, wait, that doesn't sound like me, and so they rebuffed the whole notion of astrology. But then something else astrologically appeared to them, and then they're like, wait a second, but this astrology, it does resonate with me. So it's going to depend on the individual. So they might have grown up around a certain type of astrology and they were like, fuck that, but then something else caught their eye. Or they might have grown up around astrology and laughed at it, and therefore astrology does not apply to them. But is it wrong to work with different types of astrologies? Because I've been asked this like so many times, and I'm just like, listen, we don't do discrimination over here, okay? So if I want to work with my draconic chart on Monday and work with my Western tropical chart on Friday, I'ma do me just that. I don't care. There are things from the different types of astrologies that I've seen, and just looking at myself, because, in my view, one need to study themselves before they attempt to study another, because one must know themselves before they are to observe another impartially, to know what is them, what they know about them, and know that the other is separate from them but sharing this wonderful experience. So for me personally, I resonate very much, I would say the most, with my draconic astrological chart. Does that mean that it's the right one that everyone should follow? No. Does that mean that I scoff at the Western tropical astrology? No, it just depends on what is resonating with me. Listen, I view tarot different. I view astrology different. I agree with a lot of the, the basics of tarot and astrology, like the general knowledge of what does this sign mean, what does this planet mean, what do the houses mean, what does this card number mean, like I know the basics of it, but a lot of it I just personally don't look at from that perspective. So a lot of times if I'm reading tarot cards, I'll be like, well, typically this means this, but in this context, I'm going to take it like this. And it's the same thing for astrology. So nothing is set in stone. Even if you are following multiple different types of astrologies and you could resonate with a little bit of one and a little bit of another and what have you, you're still going to want to intuitively know what resonates with you, even if you're reading a chart of another person, because you're going to know that this is something that is coming from your intuition regarding that particular sign, that particular house, that particular aspect, whatever it is. So every time that I read an astrology chart for different people, I personally interpret things differently. And this might be viewed as a faux pas by motherfuckers that don't follow their own intuition, but that's another story. When I am reading something, for example, in Vedic astrology, I agree with my chart in Vedic astrology to an extent. I wouldn't say that I resonate with it as much as Draconic or Western astrology, but I'm like, okay, I can see that. The one thing, and this is if you're really into Vedic astrology, then you do you. Ain't no motherfucker here trying to change no motherfucker's mind. This is me. When it's read that this planet is enemy of that planet, or it's like you're reading the characteristics and it's just, to me, I find it overly negative, in my opinion. So I don't know if that's like, let's say in Vedic astrology, when they're talking about the malefic planets and they're saying this planet is an enemy, maybe they mean malefic, but it's just that's the terminology that is common for Vedic astrology. I don't know. Okay, I don't know it like that. I know enough about Vedic astrology, but the one thing that deters me from it is just that things to me seem very fatalistic, in my opinion. Okay, and I'm not saying that every astrology sign should be all roses and fucking unicorns, but I don't know, me, I'm not resonating with that type of language talking about this planet is enemy of that planet. But if someone does, then by all means, they should, if they're identifying with that and how things are written, how things are worded, they're identifying with what their own intuition is telling them about Vedic astrology, then by all means go for it. So it's like kind of killed like 17 birds with one stone in this video because I got into a lot of topics, but the bottom line is that astrology being real or not, or different branches of astrology being real or not, it's all going to depend, even down to reading astrology, it's all going to depend on your intuition. So for Vedic astrology, yes, I do find it fatalistic in my opinion, but I do agree with some of the things that are said there, and I take that into consideration and I see how that compares to like my Draconic chart or my Western astrology chart, and then I'm like, okay, I could see a little bit of a similarity there. If you look at all different types of astrology, you are going to notice that there might be things that you resonate with more or less, and there's no right or wrong answer, honestly, okay? There's no right or wrong answer. I have midheaven in Libra, and I think that speaks for itself. Just putting that out there, okay? So that's why I'm always doing this. That's why I'm always like neutralized. That's why I'm always like everything has its poles. In case you didn't fucking know. Oh, it's the Libra midheaven, okay? So I'm quite comfortable exploring different things and then kind of weighing each of them and seeing what resonates with me. So use your intuition. If something is telling you when you're looking at person A's chart that these two planets ain't getting along, but yet person B's chart, they have that same sort of configuration of planets, but you can see that they're getting along in that person's chart, Obviously, everyone is different. It's going to depend. Remember, astrology and the personality, the personal experiences of that person are also going to come into play, because in my opinion, when astrology talks about negative aspects of certain signs or planets or whatever, and they also talk about positive aspects of certain signs, planets, whatever, what they are really talking about, in my view, as conveyed to me when I read astrology, is that the negative characteristics, be it what they might, are from someone who is more unevolved. So they might be earlier along in their journey and they might still have some immaturity in that area. Therefore, those planet signs, houses are expressing negative traits. Whereas someone who's evolved and they sort of have quelled the anxiety of the ego, and that part of the personality is just kind of like, oh, okay, cool, we'll shut up, we'll, not gonna try to self-sabotage anymore. If they've evolved from there and now they have that same chart, but they've evolved, let's say it's, and people can evolve in like one day, don't matter. So like, this is the same person, they were expressing the negative traits of whatever it was in their chart, and then now you look at them and they're expressing the positive traits. You're like, oh, but it's not necessarily that those negative traits were never present and those positive traits were never present. It's just that the way that you're viewing them, they've evolved, they've grown into the more positive qualities. So when someone is talking about negative characteristics, that's typically when someone has not learned how to really steer their personality, and that has not really progressed enough to even exhibit a lot of the positive qualities. And it also depends, on the circumstance, the situation, whatever. Because let's say if someone is in a pissed off mood, they're going to be different than if they're in like in a pleasant mood, right? So when someone is angry, they might express more of the negative qualities of their chart, and when someone is in a good mood, they are going to be displaying the positive qualities. So you have to take all of that into consideration. You can't just look at, in my view, you can't just look at planets or charts and say, or like, you have to really take all of that into consideration, because nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. So someone in the same individual, early in the morning, let's say they're a morning person, they're going to be exhibiting different traits of their chart than, let's say they're not a night person, because I just said they were a morning person. At nighttime, they're cranky, they're tired, they want to go to sleep. There's going to be different traits expressed potentially. Nothing is set in stone. That's why I always say, utilize your own intuition. If you resonate with astrology and you see it real, it's going to convey itself as real to you. And if someone doesn't believe in astrology, then they're just not going to see it, and you're not going to make them see it. That's what I got for you today. I am Oculus, the alien next door, and we will chit chat again soon.